Upper Echelon is brought to you by Deloitte. For innovative thinking and thorough strategic planning, turn to Deloitte. Herman Mashaba, one of South Africa's most celebrated entrepreneurs, is with us with a story, I guess, that we can all relate to. And maybe that's why so many young people in South Africa identify with you. But I must ask you this, Herman. With so many people making big money in corporations, they're tenderpreneurs, people with political connections, don't you sometimes feel just a little bit irritated that you had to do it the hard way?
Well, I think, Alec, it actually comes with the territory. I'm really quite content with my space. I've enjoyed my life, particularly the last 30 years of my business life. It's really been quite a fulfilling experience, and it's something that from time to time I'd really wish I can get South Africans, particularly black South Africans, to really go through this route in terms of wealth creation. That I always really, the reason why I like and prefer this is really seeing one creating wealth, but creating it, actually working for it over a period of time, not really taking a short-term view.
Bootstraps. I guess you could call yourself Bootstraps, Mashaba, but you didn't call yourself that. You called yourself, according to Moki Makena's book on Africa's great entrepreneurs, the Knox Man.
Well, I'm a
and
trader.
The owner of the dice.
I was born a trader, and I think, Alec, one of the things that actually gives me so much satisfaction about my life, it's the capitalist nature of my life. I'm a real born bred up capitalist. I like the system. And I think I like the system for the fact that it can actually help to give one the independence, not the political independence. It can really give you genuine, true independence.
Tell us about this Knox Man story.
Well, the Knox Man story happened in the early stages of my life. I probably started gambling at the age of 12, 13 years of age, and in the township with wanting to have an opportunity to make money, and you buy a set of dice and you call your peers and you play, and for you become the government of the day as an Knoxman. You actually the government of the day, and that's a role I played until I actually completed my matric in 1978. Because I actually avoided going out to really do manual work that my peers used to do on Saturdays, going into the wide neighborhood, Pretoria North, going to do gardens, and some of them going to be caddies. Avoided that exposure. I prefer to stay back in the townships and really be a gambler. Wait for them to come back in the evening and I start gambling with them.
It's so interesting because I was looking again at your story, and Warren Buffett, who I'm not sure you've been to one of his annual general meetings.
No, I've not really had that opportunity, but that's one of the things I'm really looking forward to.
We got to take you there, Herman, because there were a few things in Buffett's life that actually are reflected in yours as well. It's interesting that you say, for instance, you're hardwired for capitalism. Mm-hmm. Another issue that Buffett was quite involved in was he understood risk by being a tip sheet. He started a horse racing tip sheet, so he too had a gambling instinct at an early age.
Yeah, well, as I say, I really hope that we can really get, as I say, particularly my black counterparts in our country and the continent all over, to realize that I think for me as human beings, we need to really have that edge to really take risk, because it's only through that we can really build wealth and bring our country and build our communities. We can't just really bring and create wealth by just really talking. We've got to really be doers.
It's not risk at any count. It's actually calculated risk, I guess you could call it.
Yes, as much as it's calculated, it is. But I think let's really look at risk. In the type of life I've led, what is the worst thing I can lose is money. I'm not going to lose my life because I've taken a commercial risk, as long as I do it and play within the legal framework. And I think what is actually so satisfying for me the last 20 years of the new democracy in our country is that one can now have the opportunity to operate within the legal framework. Whereas when I actually started my business 30 years ago, as you're aware, the legislative framework was that as a black man I was not allowed to. But I decided with or without that legislative framework, I'll do it anyway. And actually put me to really operate outside the law to some extent, which is something that I'm not really proud of. But at the same time, I'm not apologetic about it, because people, when given a situation in life, you've got to find a way to navigate. But right now, in this new democratic dispensation, I have seen no reason why people should not have the edge to work hard and operate within the legal framework.
Another issue that Warren Buffett uses, a suggestion, he says the most important decision of anyone's life is going to be the person you marry. Now, you and Connie are coming up for nearly 30 years, your 30th anniversary.
Yeah.
And often I know many friends wonder what she saw in you. I can see what you saw in her. But it's been an unbelievable partnership.
It's really been, I've really been fortunate. Actually, before I met Connie, I've shared this with the world so many times that before actually I met Connie, I've had so many girlfriends, and I never really had marriage in anywhere near my vocabulary. I thought, you know what, marriage, I'll see it after I turn 40. And then all of a sudden, I was faced with a situation where I needed to stabilize my life, and Connie was there. And in a few months' time, we will be celebrating 30 years of our marriage, which is really, for me, one of my big achievements.
I was intrigued and delighted to see that she's still your favorite golf partner as well.
Oh, absolutely. Well, that's another fortunate part about it, that we spend so much of our time together, be in the golf course, be traveling, be at home and so forth. So I've already been really quite blessed.
It is a blessing when one has a look at many who haven't been as fortunate as you are to find a life partner and your best friend.
Yeah,
That's such an
absolutely.
amazing thing.
And it's not an easy thing. That's really normally when I talk to the youth and actually relate my story to them, and I always advise them, says, please, I'm not really saying to you that pronouncing to you that you must go and marry the first woman or man that you meet. I think it depends on the chemistry. So be very careful. And I'm not really articulating that people must actually just really marry for the sake of marriage, of getting married.
Oh, you had made a great decision. Then you talk about the youth. I get excited when I visit schools, Herman, when I talk to the young people coming through today. I'm not as excited when I talk to people of maybe our age, the older people who've got quite a lot of baggage. Do you feel the same way?
Alec, I'm personally extremely concerned with the future of our country from an educational point of view. As much as I think one get excited with a few, unfortunately, the kids who are in private schools, but unfortunately, public schools environment, I'm extremely concerned, because I think I've got family and people in the townships and in the villages I come across, and I really look at the type of education we're offering them at the moment. I'm actually quite concerned. It's a time bomb. We need some urgent intervention to ensure that we can really give our kids the type of education that can make them good members of the community and really be able to be productive.
Don't you think the opportunities are so much greater today? Of course, we've got this formal education system, which is a joke in many ways when you have teachers going on strike for extra wages and so on. But the children today are so wired. They're so connected. They've got their cell phones. They can get onto the internet. They can educate themselves about things that we just never had the opportunity.
We're fortunate as a country with our private schooling environment, because if we did not really have that, as much as unfortunately it's touching few kids, but at least it's actually doing the best. Because if you look at our private schooling environment, can compete with anywhere in the world. Unfortunately, majority of our kids coming from our communities are not getting the type of education that's going to equip them to really be able to compete with the rest of the world out there, and actually help us build this country, because we need as many of our kids to really get the right type of education to really be able to take the economy.
You never
forward.
really had a great education yourself.
Yes, absolutely. But then, but I taught myself, and I don't really believe, Alec, we as a country can operate on a basis of just one in a million, and someone who just really out of luck, because I survived probably to a large extent out of luck. Probably the old man upstairs decided, you know what, let me guide you. But we can't really run our lives based on that. That is why we have government that can actually drive the big picture. And I think we really need them to really come out with intervention. I don't really believe that our authorities can tell me that they're pleased with the type of outcomes we're getting out of our schools.
No, dead right. But there's a lot of improvement that can be done. Just from your perspective, though, more on a business front, family businesses like yours, you and Connie, it does bring its own level of challenges. Have you Have you built your business for your children, or are you looking for the second, third generation?
Well, I've made statements in the past that people have always regarded me as a successful person, and I'm saying, look, I don't believe I am successful. I've really had a good life the last 30 years of my business career, but then success for me is not really something that happens overnight or happens over one generation. My biggest fear and concern is to ensure that I can really pass whatever I'm doing to the next generation. Those are some of the things that makes me wake up at night, that whatever I've built, and I've really built a very good, solid base for my kids to really take to the next level. Are they going to do this? Fortunately, my kids are still young at the moment. My daughter at 14, the boy at my daughter at 16, the boy at 14, and I can see at the moment, do they have grasp of what responsibility they have? I don't think so, and that's something that I'm really hoping that I'm going to manage, because that is what I would really want people, once I've passed in this world, for people to judge me on whether I've managed to really pass this to the next generation.
Will you send them to go and work elsewhere? Will you send them to university?
Absolutely. Actually, in the beginning of my life, when I started having kids, I never thought I would actually allow my kids to go overseas. I thought until they've obviously received their junior degrees. But my feeling right now is that as far as I'm concerned, if I can get an opportunity to get them out as soon as possible, probably that would really help. So that's something that I'm going to encourage them. I actually push them every time to say, look, go and see the world, go and experience. I've got contacts most parts of the world where my kids can really be accepted anytime, be it in universities, be in businesses. So I think they're in such that fortunate position. But then at the end of the day, it's going to be up to them to take those opportunities. I hope they're going to react positively.
But that is exciting that the children of today can travel a lot, bring those skills back to this country. Just talking about this country itself, something else I read, you got terribly proud, and you're not the only one. I'm also equally proud of the Gautrain. Wasn't that something?
Oh, yeah. I used it yesterday coming from Cape Town. I went to Cape Town on Wednesday, from my house, 2 minutes. I'm at the station, just get someone to drop me. And within 10 minutes, I'm at the station, and yesterday again. For me, it's really one of the success stories of this country. Let's do more of this. I'll call on government and everyone concerned, please, let's start the preparations to extend this network. We need it. We know it's not cheap. It can't come out cheap, but I can tell you future generations need it.
Let's be bold. The other thing I was interested to notice from the bit of background on yourself is that you love biographies.
Oh, yeah.
Why?
That's all. I was said to you earlier on that I actually taught myself. And what I've read? I'm probably one of the individuals who've read so many biographies, and not just really about business, about anybody else. I'd really read about sports people, about the professors, anyone who writes books about themselves. I'll be the first one to actually grab it. I've read so many, and that's what I do, because I think it really gives me a total different perspectives in terms of how people navigate through life, and so really so fascinating, because I deal with reality.
And you can learn from others. And I'll let you know something else about Warren Buffett. I asked him this year in Omaha to give me some ideas of books to read, and he paused for a while. And he said, well, Catherine Graham's biography is a good one, but I read biographies. That's where I read the most.
Okay,
so you can see there's a lot together. Herman, you, apart from starting off with literally as a trader from the boot of your car, you've now moved all the way through the rungs and are serving on boards of a huge company, for instance, like Growthpoint. And you've also been involved in the bricks industry. How different is it now? How much of an impact and a contribution can you make at that very top level of big business?
It's actually interesting, Alec, when I see my move from really running one company where I was the only one extremely dominant, and really going into the next level where I have other equally competent, strong board members sharing this with them. I think for me it's such a personal privilege. I feel extremely privileged to really be involved in this. And I think to a large extent, the reason why I feel this way is that with various sectors of the economy that I'm exposed to. And every time I go to a board meeting, like this morning, I went to a very interesting board meeting in the financial services sector. And people, the management will always tell you how unique their business is. And I laugh about this because from one meeting to the next, the following day, I come into another group who will obviously come and tell me how unique their business is. And at the end of the day, people don't realize business is about wealth creation. Whether you're selling water, you're selling financial services, or selling bricks or property, business is about actually making money. And the fundamentals, as much as they might obviously be different, but at the end of the day, you know what, the bottom line, that what actually drives the businesses. And as I say, for me, it's really been quite great. And most of the colleagues I interact with, they appreciate my contribution to the boards because of the nature of how I was born. I just don't keep quiet when I don't have to. If I'm quiet, then you must know I'm in agreement. But if I'm not agreeing and I don't agree with something, I'll always raise my issues. And I'm not very confrontational. But obviously, if I need answers on issues, I fight. And I think probably because I was born a fighter. Yeah.
Always asking the uncomfortable questions. Herman Mashaba, one of South Africa's most celebrated entrepreneurs. And Upper Echelon was brought to you by Deloitte. For innovative thinking and thorough strategic planning, turn to Deloitte.